Yes, Mr. Mnisi.
Thank you, my lord. Thank you, Brigadier. Now, uh, accused number one gets arrested on the strength of a warrant of arrest in relation to the drug matter. Subsequent thereto, there are questions that are put to him relating to this matter, and then he say things which, according to the police, very relevant, and then the process of the confessions and the pointing out then thereafter followed. Not so.
It is so, my lord.
So my following of the events up to thus far, they are still correct.
Yes, but with the exception of the event of the 31st, and that relates to the witch doctor, the traditional healer, Mr. Swane. So it's the questioning on the 30th of May.
Yes.
31st, the pointing out to Mr. Zwane and obviously that interview, and then subsequent to that, then the formal interview. The pointing out of the 5th of June. Yes. So that is the correct.
Thank you. Now, after the pointing out, which happened on the 5th, the state, when I say the state now, I'm referring to the side of the police. The police were then able to form a reasonable suspicion on the content of the information on the confession, and pointing out the state then form a reasonable suspicion that indeed here, definitely accused number one is got a case to answer in relation to the death of SENZO MEYIWA.
That suspicion, I believe, my lord, was there, but it was not the end. As I've said earlier, we needed to follow up things that are mentioned, which we did on the confession, to corroborate it. But also then there were other investigations in the very same matter where witnesses in the hostel and different places were then interviewed and subsequently statements taken. So there was a whole lot of investigation taking place around this period of the confession. It was not just the confession and the pointing out. There were other investigations in support of the confession, and where there's contradiction, where we discovered that this is not accurate, my lord. Yes, my lord. But also the other part is that, as I've said also previously, that it was in conjunction with the NPA, because there was that at that stage it was a procedural driven investigation. So we will then share notes and follow up on certain things as well.
Thank you. So if I were to capture what you've just said now, is that subsequent to the making of the confession and the pointing out by accused number one, you had to go and find some corroboration with regard to what was contained in the confession, and that you did in conjunction with the directives or the assistance by the prosecutors from the DPP.
So, my lord, so what I'm saying is that in the midst of that investigation, so subsequent to the confession, there were other investigations pertaining this matter that was embarked upon. And in embarking in that process, such was discussed with the NPA as they were part of the investigation, but not necessarily to say in the confession they said this and this. It was a vast investigation, but obviously as you collect and you seek guidance, you will then communicate with the prosecution, and then you will get guidance, and then you will follow up. But it was not one isolated. As we're embarking or looking at accused number one, we're also looking at accused number two at the time in terms of the cold case analysis. So it was vast. But insofar as accused one is concerned, it was the things that were mentioned in the confessions that we're following up and trying to collaborate with the DNA, for example, the analysis, etc. My lord. Yes, my lord.
Brigadier, in essence, what I'm saying is the information that was contained in the confession by accused number one and the information that was in the pointing out or the pointing out itself basically served as a springboard to widen the scope of investigation, and which is the reason why then we had to go and search for other information just to confirm if what is contained in the confession is what should have been.
This is correct, my lord.
Thank you, sir. Now, accused number one gets arrested on the 1st, on the 30th. On the 1st, he allegedly makes a confession before Colonel Mboto, and then on the 5th, he makes allegedly pointing out before Colonel Fadebe.
So the dates, my lord, maybe to put them in the correct context.
Yes.
The confession was made on the 31st. Sorry, on the 30th of
Yes.
May 2020.
Yes.
asilungiswe lapho-ke i-confession bayenza ngelanga lange-30 ngoMeyi ngomnyaka 2020.
On the 1st of June 2020, he made a first appearance in Tembisa Court insofar as the appearance is relating to the drug dealing matter. That is now the events of the 1st of June 2020. Yes, and the confession that was made on the 30th, my lord, 30 is the one that was made to Colonel Mboto. And then the first, as I said, is court appearance. No events took place insofar as the confession is concerned. And then the formal pointing out was then done on the 5th by Colonel Radebe, correctly so, my lord. Yes, that's. I just wanted to assist on the first, on the date of the first.
No, I do admit, I said on the first, that's when the confession was made. It was actually on the 30th. You're correct, yes. Now, between the period of the 5th, which is the day on which accused number 1 made its pointing out to, or in the presence of Colonel Radebe, and the date on which accused number 2 was arrested, which is the 16th of July, 16th June 2020. Is there anything of importance that you can bring to the attention of this court as it relates to accused number 1?
Yeah.
In relation specifically to accused number 1,
mayelana nodaba likamsola wokuqala oqondile
on the context of investigation?
mayelana nokuphenya kwecala.
Yes.
Yeah, my lord, it will be difficult to answer that question from the top of my head because I will need now to go through the docket to see, for example, what transpired from the 5th. If we interviewed someone, what statements, which is possible that we could have done that, what investigation. So I will have to really rely on the docket to be specific. I can't say from the top of my head.
Okay.
What I can say, although I'm not, and that's why I said, because I'm obvious, I need to answer between the 5th and the 16th, my lord. I do know that investigation took place insofar as whatever we're doing related to the investigation or the corroboration that we wanted to get around accused number 1.
Yes.
What I'm not certain of is whether it falls within these 2 dates of the 5th and the 16th or after. So that's why I'm saying if I have to be specific, then one will have to look at the docket to see the specific dates, my lord.
But uyazi ukuthi phakathi qhamuka kwelanga le-5 zakaJune ngomnyaka 2020 kuze kufike ngelanga le-16 ngenyanga kaJune ngomnyaka 2020 bona kade bematasatasa besenza bephenya kwicala leli-ke kepha uyasho khona ukuthi okuthizeni aphendule ngamashini alombuzo wakade ubuziwe lapho-ke kuzomele ukuthi bamvumele isikhathi esanele sokuthi ahambe kuyobuka idokhethi lakhe-ke abuke ukuthi mhlawumbe ngabe yini ekhona ngaphakathi kwedokhethi mayelana nomsola wokuqala phakathi kwesikhathi leso wathi ummeli ambuza ngaso.
Yeah, I can agree with you with that. Yeah, it's very massive, but I would really appreciate if you can take time to go and just go through your documents so that as we go forward, we don't find ourselves in a situation where we say, no, but I remember, I can now remember, I can remember this is what happened, stuff like that, you understand?
This is a very, very tough space for Brigadier Ginenda. It's really tough because he cannot read where Mnisi is going with anything. He has no clue. It's like driving while blind. So why do I say that? When Mnisi and Ginenda met before, they already knew, okay, there was already a prerequisite of what was going on because throughout the trial, it was clear what Mnisi would ask the Brigadier with regards to accused number 3. But with regards to accused number 1, there is no clue. There is no other time where Advocate Mnisi has cross-examined on behalf of accused number 1. So there is no kind of prerequisite ahead. So Ginenda is really like not sure where to go. So you can hear this, I believe, between the two of them. This was the best interaction. Ginenda is answering questions, short answers. Mnisi is asking questions. Mnisi is using his monotone voice, and Mnisi uses that voice just to show Ginenda, I'm not trying to trap you. I'm not doing anything. And then you will see later he elevates his voice, and then you know it's going down. It's about to go down. Here comes the jab, right hook. Let me know in the comment section if you read that book. But here's the thing. So, Mnisi, I actually did enjoy this. It was very professional. It was cross-examination. We were following the timeline of Muzi Sevilla and what happened. There was no dondonis. There was no aggravation. There was no, I'm going to hide my card from you. It was just pure cross-examination. And I loved it. Good job, guys. But it is when Mnisi gave the Brigadier homework. Well, he didn't give him homework. The Brigadier said, no, I can't answer that question. This is when Mnisi asked him, from the 5th of June to the 16th of June, when Bongani Ntanzi is arrested, is there anything in particular you want to tell me about with regards to accused number 1? And Ginenda's like, I'm not saying anything off the top of my head. I need to go back and check my files. Mnisi says, sure, no problem. The only advice I have for Brigadier Ginenda here, Last time Nisi gave you homework and it was the warning statements, you came back into court and you wanted to lead Nisi. Don't do it, okay? Don't do it. I know it's tempting. When you come back with the homework, just sit with it until Nisi comes back to that portion. Because Nisi does his things all over the place, okay? And so he's not doing things in a linear structure. He has specific things he's doing. Let Nisi go his way and let him come back to you and say, you owe me those papers. Keep in mind, everybody, we're all still waiting from Giaco's FC number. Nisi hasn't talked about it yet, but I bet you he will. I bet you he will. So let's continue listening on.
Do you understand, my lord?
Thank you, sir.
Athi yebo ngiyakuzwa.
Now, fast forward. 16 June 2020, accused number 2 gets arrested. There's a whole lot of investigation that happens around him, which culminated to, and that is on record, which culminated to a confession being made before, I think, a magistrate, Kronje, and Colonel Rapad, not so. It's just a very brief summary in relation to accused number 2.
Yes, that is correct. But the sequence of the confession, my lord, the first one on the 19th of June was made to Colonel Rapadio. And then on the 24th of June 2020, then to Magistrate Kronya, my lord.
Athi
On the
yebo
24th.
And subsequent to that is after the 2 documents or the 2 incidents happened, then the investigation then had to proceed just to try and corroborate the information that you receive and try to get other information and stuff like that, up until such time that the docket was again put before the doors or the shores of the offices of the NPA for a decision. So and that's just in summary.
It is so, my lord.
athi yebo kunjalo.
Now, as I went through the documents, I realized that there were 2 offices of the DPP that were involved here. That's now DPP Johannesburg and the office of the DPP Pretoria. Now, firstly, which DPP was approached for the first time after you had assembled this information and presented to a DPP for a decision probably?
It was the Pretoria, my lord, the Pretoria DPP. And my recollection of when we started engaging DPP Pretoria, Advocate Baloyi and other advocates, were directed to go, I think it would have been early 2019, if not somewhere in December. So, but when the matter started, when we were appointed, at that stage, this docket was under the DPP Johannesburg. We then subsequently then advised that then it's been moved to Pretoria. And that is why there was this meeting of the 26th of January that I testified about 2019, where Brigadier Perumal, myself, went to see Advocate Baloyi with Advocate Leonard and I think Advocate Mahwati and where the other members were. That was, at least I can paste that date to the 26th of January 2019. So going downwards, up to the time when the docket was presented for a decision, it was only Pretoria DPP that we're dealing with, my lord.
That was such a smooth landing, okay? Well, Advocate Mnisi is one of a kind. So he takes the brigadier through Muzi's timeline. No drama there, okay? Everything's nice and smooth. Everything is copacetic. He's asking questions, he's answering. And then he says, okay. Then he switches gears and also switches the tone of his voice. And now he says, okay, let's go straight to June 16. Or should I say 16 June 2020. Accused number 2 gets arrested. Ooh. And then he says, and then he tries to go through a cute summary timeline, okay? And he says, okay, he gives his confession on the 19th to Rapadu, and he gives the second confession on the 24th to Magistrate Kronje. Now, there were 2 officers of the DPP involved, and this is where he switches gears. Of the DPP involved, Johannesburg and Pretoria. Which one were you dealing with? Did you see how smooth he snuck that in? Nobody saw it coming. Not even Advocate Baloyi sitting right there. Then Gininda says, oh, this is an easy one, thank goodness. And he goes, well, we were dealing with Pretoria, blah, 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 blah. He goes on and on and on. But you know what? It's going to get interesting. It's going to get interesting. So I'm going to start a separate video so we can digest that separately. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you on my next upload. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I absolutely love it when you do. So please don't forget to like the video before you leave. Okay, thanks for watching. Catch you in my next upload. Bye.